So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day our producer Louis had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithms really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could Xtra. Whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track Xtra. For decades, there's been a cultural trope of the disgruntled postman who, after years of doing a job he hated, finally snaps, climbs the water tower in the middle of the village and starts picking off random strangers with a high-powered assault rifle. Luckily, we don't have a water tower, and as far as I know, nobody has a high-powered assault rifle. But we do have Postman Jim. Postman Jim, Postman Jim, Postman Jim, we're wary of him. A rather unpleasant manky, is dubious, rude and skanky. If you look online, there's warnings about him. And now, Postman Jim will reveal the contents of his sack.
Hello, Jonathan, my friend, and hello at home, boys and girls. I'm sure you'll all be proper chuffy bunnies to hear me sack is stuffed full of really exciting stuff this week, and it's like a lovely, nice cold milk drink, all interesting and full of creamy goodness. So, John, we all know you've decided to move back to Exeter after the absolute scenes in Wolseley. Ollie Taftchubster has written in to ask, what are your plans for the CFZ when you move to Exeter?
Well, Jim, there is a rumour going around that I'm retiring and that I'm selling this house here and moving back to Exeter so I can spend my twilight years nearer to the flesh pots of our local metropolis. Well, this actually isn't true. I'm selling up here because of a series of misadventures, and I will be the first to admit errors of judgment on my behalf, and my particular errors of judgment have been trusting people that I really shouldn't have trusted, and worse, trusting people that my dear wife told me not to trust. And so I've lost this house. I have got someone who wants to buy it. They're friends of my nephew Ross, and I believe that they are going to take good care of the place. I am moving back to Exeter as soon as I can get the present occupant to move out of the property that I own in Exeter, and I will be spending my twilight years, hopefully the rest of my life, because I'd rather die at home in my own bed than in some NHS facility for old people. And hopefully I'll spend the rest of my life back in the house where I spent 20 years of my younger life. But am I leaving the CFZ? No, I'm not even packing in my day job for Gonzo Multimedia. I'm going to carry on doing all of it for the time being. However, the fact that I'm going to be living in the same city as Richard Freeman and my chosen successor, Gwyn Palmer, is going to open up a whole lot of new vistas for me. We are intending to restart the Weird Weekend, and hopefully it will be as jolly and exciting as it always used to be, with all the things that we always used to do. And it will have me, Richard and Gwyn, at the helm. We are already in discussion with the venue we want to use, who have agreed in theory, and I am in the process of discussing the proposed lineup with Glenn at Weird Weekend North and other people to make sure that we don't either have our event too close to Glenn or anybody else, and that our lineup of guests is significantly different, because it's one thing that has always annoyed me about the rock festival lineups each year is that they do tend to be very, very similar, because there's only a certain amount of A-list speakers who are on tour at any one time. Well, the cryptozoological world is far smaller and far less money is involved, but there are people who tend to be doing the publicity rounds each year, and they're the ones who turn up in everybody's conferences. Well, I'm hoping that, just as we always have been, that the lineup for the Weird Weekend is going to end up being significantly different and more entertaining than anybody else's. But this isn't all we're planning to do. As any of you who have been following the CFZ for any significant length of time will know, we have a serious amount of books and natural history specimens, which at the moment are housed in what used to be my spare bedroom. Before that it used to be old Lewis's bedroom, and before that it used to be my mother's spare bedroom. But for the last, can't remember how many years now, it's been the CFZ library, and we are going to take over what would have been the spare bedroom in the house in Exeter to make it into my library. But there is going to be a definite shortage of room for books. What we are planning to do is to see if we can rent a small industrial unit on an industrial estate somewhere, and then to make that into a permanent library and exhibition space for the CFZ, and people will be able to visit it by appointment, and we will have all sorts of other interesting and hopefully exciting events that I have at the moment mulling around the mishmash of my cerebral cortex. And so that's basically what we're planning to do. How's it going to be paid for? Well, this is not going to be precluding me coming up and saying, "Hey guys, give us your money," because I don't do that. It's very kind when people do give us their money, but as an anarchist who's really always found money to be a necessary but rather vulgar evil, I do my best to leave it out of my communications with the outside world as far as I possibly can. I am going to have more money once I no longer have to pay the mortgage on this place, because I paid the mortgage off on my Exeter house something like 20 years ago. So I'm going to have considerably more money when I move to Exeter, and at least initially that will be paying for the costs of setting up the CFZ Library and Exhibition. But both Gwyn and I have some other ideas which we will bring before you in due course, and I hope that you will find them both interesting and appealing. Next question, Jim.
Right, top answer. Well sorted, Arcade. So now, Mac Everard of Open Fly Films has written in to ask 2 questions. He writes, 1. Dear Mr. Downs, sir, do you think that climate change is already affecting British wildlife? And 2, how do you think that climate change is likely to affect our wildlife in the future?
That's actually a jolly good question. There's no doubt that climate change has already affected British wildlife quite considerably. In the negative side, that some of the creatures which rely on cold weather are becoming scarcer. But on a positive side, there are various creatures from the Mediterranean type habitats which, both by accident, by design, and by natural causes, are beginning to colonize these islands. For example, antlions, absolutely fantastic creatures. The antlions are a group of about 2,000 species of insect in the neuropteran family Myrmidonotinae. They are known from the predatory habits of their larvae, which mostly dig pits to trap passing ants or other prey. The exact meaning of the name antlion is uncertain. It's been thought to refer to ants forming a large percentage of the prey of the insect, the suffix lion merely meaning destroyer or hunter. In any case, the term seems to go back to classical antiquity. In North America, however, they have to be different. The larvae are sometimes referred to there as doodlebugs because of the marks they leave in the sand. In Europe, this is the common name of several large beetles, the maybug and the Junebug in the chafer family or Malcafer, and the usage for the World War II German superweapon, the V1, which was an early cruise missile, is because of the humming noise the missiles made. These were also, by the way, known as Malcafer or maybugs. The adult insects are less well known due to their relatively short lifespans in comparison with the larvae. Adults, sometimes known as antlion lacewings, mostly fly at dusk or just after dark and may be mistakenly identified as dragonflies or damselflies. Antlions have a worldwide distribution. The greatest diversity occurs in the tropics, but a few species are found in cold temperate locations, one such being the European Eurolion nostris. This was never found in Britain, or not within historic times anyway, but now, presumably because of global warming, it has been found in 2 locations in East Anglia, and it will be interesting to see if they spread further. Antlions, of course, colonized bits of Britain because not only was the weather warm enough for them to thrive, but because they can fly. But other animals that can't fly have also taken advantage, unwittingly, of the change in the climate. One particularly interesting example being the Aesculapian snake, which is a southern European species, which is now found at 2 locations in Wales and 1 location in London. In all 3 locations, they have escaped or been released deliberately from captivity. But they are beautiful snakes. They're not doing anybody any harm. They're not in direct competition with any of the British species, and they are probably now our longest reptile, if you don't count marine turtles. There are all sorts of other species, which both from human vectors and by accident have turned up in Britain and are taking advantage of the warmer weather. There isn't time to go through a whole list of these in this episode, but if you'd like me to do a full episode of On the Track, or at least a couple of episodes of On the Track Extra going through some of the animals that we think are most likely to arrive in British shores, either deliberately or accidentally or naturally, please let us know and we will most certainly do it.
Well, I'm sure we'll all be buzzing to know we've had another letter from Caitlin Bruiser, America's cross-dressing answer to Charles Dawson. And on this occasion, it writes, Dear Mr. Downs, I have just returned from my very ancestral Bonnie Scotland Loch Ness trip with me trusty little poodle, Steffi, where I became a global media sensation overnight, as usual. And I'd also like to point out that V. McCrinnan is a total get. My question is this, Mr. Downs. What do you think is the most exciting piece of cryptozoology news of 2025 so far?
Well, as regular viewers will know, for the last 20 years I've been interested in the rapid proliferation of armoured catfish species in the Amazon basin. These have been discovered so thick and fast that there hasn't been time to name them all, and so they have been given L numbers, L26, L378, whatever, in order to differentiate them from each other while proper descriptions of them are being prepared. But this latest one, which also hasn't been officially described or given a proper binomial classification, is the weirdest looking of them all. And I don't know about any other aquarists who are watching this show, but golly, I would love one in one of my tanks. But the most exciting news for the last couple of years happened about a year ago, when it was announced that a new species of tiger cat, the clouded tiger cat Leopardus pardinoides, has been discovered. Now, it is a new species with a very striking appearance and unique behaviours. It is a long-tailed cat with short round ears and weighs about 5 pounds. It looks a lot like a margay, but with its own unique style. Its fur is dense and incredibly soft, showcasing a mixture of reddish, orange and yellow tones. The cat's coat is decorated with striking cloud-like spots that sometimes merge together, making it a real beauty. One of the most unique features of the clouded tiger cat is that it only has one pair of tits. And so I'm not being vulgar, that's the proper pronunciation of what is often mispronounced teats. This is quite unusual compared to other cats. The interesting thing is that the genus Leopardinus, whereas it was once thought to only contain one species, now contains 3, and it will be interesting to see whether any others will be discovered in the days and weeks and years ahead. The sad thing is, of course, that the greatest threat to this new cat species will be people who want to wear its fur. And I'm not talking about people in the Amazon who are subsistence hunters. I'm talking about people in the West who want to have an exotic and brightly coloured and very beautiful new coat made of the pelt of God only knows how many individuals dying to produce one coat. Sad, isn't it? And whilst I'm on the subject of these newly discovered creatures, nobody seems to know what the blob head of the blobhead armoured catfish is for. Nobody has any idea, and by the way, it has no relationship at all to the deep-sea blobhead fish described a few years ago.
Oh, that were a right grand answer, Jonathan. You're dead good at this, Arkid. You've twisted our melons and given our heads a good wobble. We're proper mad for it, mate. Yeah, now, I'm dead chuffed, me. You should get a chuffty badge, Jonathan. And now, give over and let's scuttle off down a ginnel to get some scran. Oh, me stomach thinks me throat's been cut, so I'm off. And then Boggs is completely minging. Ta-da!